Stop. Stop. Hey, Miss Allen, how you doing? How you doing, Miss Allen? How you doing? Happy Wednesday. It feels like this week is already speeding up just as quickly as we ended the month of July. It seems as if this month is flowing on by. I'm doing all right, Miss Allen. I'm doing all right. Listen, it don't do no good to complain. It doesn't do any good to mope. It don't do no good to do any of those things. And so our declaration, our declaration is going to be, don't let the devil take you backwards. I also got your praise report. I'm going to be responding to that. I haven't had time to, but I did read it. And so, Capone, stop. No. So, again, our declaration is don't let the devil take you back. I'm going to say it again. Don't let the devil take you back. Don't let the devil take you back. That is going to be our declaration. I took yesterday off because it was just one of those days. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced those kind of days where, you know, the warfare is just so bad that you really can't do nothing but just sit in the Lord's presence. I don't know if y'all have ever dealt with that, where it be so rough everywhere you look, you know, it's just the enemy is trying you. And it's literally like you can't do nothing else but just be to yourself, but sit in the Lord's presence and just, you know, try to like wait it out. Y'all ever like had a moment where you felt like, God, I gotta wait this thing out. I gotta just put everything else on pause. And I literally just gotta wait this thing out. So that was me on yesterday. It just seemed as if everywhere I looked, that the enemy was just using and activating somebody. And I'm gonna be real, I had a very emotional moment where I just literally had to just take a chill pill, you know, wait it out and just try to keep moving forward. It was such a day where it got to me so bad that I legitimately like had a headache at the end of the night. I don't know if anybody has ever experienced like there are some things that you go through where it's like the enemy can be so very unrelenting, you know, that it just literally just makes you get into a place where, you know, you literally like have a headache because of everything that you're having to go through and think about. Stop, Bo. And so this was me. And I was in the middle of having like, stop, come here. Hold on one second, y'all. I got to put him up because he's not going to do right. Hold on. Come on, if you're coming. Come on, sweetie. All right, y'all. Sorry about that. Literally, right when I go live, I know they like to play in the morning, but I mean, he biting up everything, y'all. I'm like, Lord, I forgot about having a puppy so young that they teeth and they literally got all the toys in the world, but you want to chew on furniture, chew on stuff that's not a toy. Like, what gives? Boy, I don't think I've experienced that like since Bella like was little. Like, now they teeth, but I don't think it was this bad. I'm just like, goodness, Lord. Like, you got all the toys in the world. Why you want to chew on stuff that's not a toy? But I digress. But I'm in the middle of me like having like a rough moment on yesterday, right? An emotional. Hold on, y'all. Sorry. I cracked the door. Kid y'all not, I cracked the door. And Sweetie didn't want to come in, but as soon as I sit down, she wants to open the door, and I look and Bo is starting to whine because he can see me, right? But in the middle of me having like one of those emotional moments, a rough moment, a moment where I just honestly, truly felt triggered from the old season. I think that there are some things that we can go through in the confines of a new season that trigger us to feel like we're still in the old season. It triggers those same emotions, those raw emotions. And in those moments of being so emotional, being so overwhelmed, if we're not careful, the devil will have us thinking that God isn't faithful. He'll have us negating all the different things that God is doing. In those emotional moments, it is very easy to like start seeing your cup as half empty versus half full. It's easy in those moments to choose not to see what God has done because you're so focused on the things that you are like believing God for. You get impatient all over again. And honestly, it's just a downward spiral that sometimes it's hard to come out of. And so in the midst of me having like one of those moments where I'm just thinking about everything, thinking about the things that happened that day, and I started to like have pity on myself. You ever like had a moment where you going through something so rocky, so rough? Maybe it's just a rough day where it's just like everywhere you look warfare. And in the mix of that, you just start like having pity on yourself. Anybody ever been there? Hey, Kanima, this was me. Just having a moment where I just felt pitied. I literally pitied myself. I thought about everything that I've been through this year, everything that I've bounced back from. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I even shed some tears in talking to God, letting my frustrations out. But in the middle of that, in the mix of that, rather, the Lord began to deal with me. He said, now, child, he said, you of anyone should understand that whenever I speak a thing, the enemy's job is to always oppose it. Whenever I've placed purpose and value on a person's life, the enemy's job is to convince them that there's no value in them, to convince them, right, that there's no purpose to their life. And I think a lot of us forget it because we hear these feel-good words from God, right? And expectations. We just expect for it to be good. We don't factor in, the devil at all. Because when you've been in a rough season, when you've been in a rocky place and God begins to speak about all the things he's going to do, the last thing on your mind that you're thinking about is the devil. It'd be the last thing. You're not thinking about him because you're just so glad that God has spoken a thing over your life. You're just so glad that God has, given you the hope to believe that life can and will be different for you. Right? And I think that a lot of people have this question. Like, what do you do when you're believing God for something, when God speaks a thing over you, and instead of seeing the thing that you're believing God for, you get met by like warfare? And it's like in the moment of God talking to me about it, he reminded me of my wilderness. If I can just say, if frustration could define a season, like frustration would definitely describe that season of my life. I'm going to just be real. Because I knew that I had a word in that season. And it seemed like the more I obey you, God, the more I follow you, the more I accept the call that you've placed on my life, the more and more I'm fighting, the more the enemy's fighting me. And a lot of times I was so frustrated because I didn't understand, like, God, if you're speaking this over me, if you're telling me to do these things, why am I getting met with warfare? Right? Why am I still getting hit instead of seeing the blessing? Anybody ever felt that way? Like, God, I'm believing you for X, Y, and Z. You spoke X, Y, and Z over my life over this season. But instead of seeing this, I'm seeing the exact opposite. And I would get so frustrated because I didn't understand it. And I'm going to be real. I didn't want to understand it then. But on one day, in one of my moments where I was at the park, the Lord began to talk to me. I don't know who that is. Somebody tried to call me. But what the Lord told me in that moment is, he said, it's because you're close, right? It's because you're on the right track that the enemy is fighting you. Because it would literally be like the more and more I decreed and declared over my life, the more and more I fought for God in that season, the more and more the enemy attacked me. And it was only when I really came out of that season that I understood the fullness of what God was saying in that season, right? It was only then. Because what I saw when I moved to that first location, right? What I saw was that, man, the entire time that the enemy was trying to get me to throw in the towel, the entire time that he was trying to make me feel like God had forgotten about me, that I wasn't going to come out of that season, God was moving things that I couldn't see. He was putting the pieces in place, right? That didn't revolve around me. And so it's like after I saw that, I began to come into a deeper understanding like what exactly the enemy's job is and how he operates. And I believe that there are some of you guys that even though you know that you're in the confines of a new season, even though you've seen God do some things for you, even though you know what God has spoken over your life, the promises that he has given you, right? But even then, people are calling me. They're going to have to wait though. I believe that what God is saying is in those moments where you're experiencing warfare instead of receiving the blessing, you've really got to put into remembrance, right? How God works and how it is the devil's job to oppose every work, every good thing that God is doing in and through our lives. And so to the person that needs to hear this, in those moments of warfare, the Lord is saying, do not let the devil take you backwards. Don't let him take you backwards. Don't let him try to pull you into a season that you are no longer in anymore. I'm going to say that again. Don't let the devil pull you into thinking that you're still in the old season when God has spoken a new thing over you, when he's spoken a new season over your life. Do not let the enemy take you back to a place that, come on, let's be real, that for some of us, we literally had to pray, fast, worship, and sow our way out of. And genuinely speaking, at the end of that conversation that God was having with me, what I heard him say was, where you are, it's not where you've been. I'll say that again. He straight up told me that. In the midst of me having an emotional moment, God said, listen, I get what it looks like. But not only are things not always what they seem, where you are right now, it's not where you've been. And it's like in that moment, I knew that what God was saying is, stop comparing this season and what's happening today to everything else that you've been through. Stop comparing it to all the hell that you've been through. It is not the same. And I know it's real easy to think with logic when you're going through, right? When God says stuff like that, it's real easy to say, but God, X, Y, and Z. This reminds me of the old season. It's real easy to try and, make God see that this season feels like the old season. It's real easy to get into a place where you don't want to believe because you've been burned so many times. It's real easy. But what God is saying is, what other choice do you have but to believe that things can change? He brought up my wilderness because I was so hopeless back then. I was being fought to such a degree that having hope, having faith was something that I really had to fight for. And I know that he brought it up because what he was showing me is that, listen, it's because of the fact that you held on. You chose to believe. When the devil tried to show you otherwise, you made the choice to say, I still believe you, God. And because I still believe you, God, I'm going to keep showing up each and every single day. And guess what? that season shifted. And God did exactly what he said he was going to do. And that is a whole word for somebody. It is the devil's job to try and convince you that God ain't going to come through. It's the devil's job to try to convince you that your season didn't change, that the blessing will never come, that the miracle will never hit your life. It is his job to do that. When you receive a thing, that's why the Bible tells us to be sure that we're sowing things on good ground, good fertile ground. Because literally in that season, I would watch Dr. Prophet Jolene Whitaker a lot. I still watch her to this day. And it would be like, and a few others during that season, not many, but a few others. It was like 3 people that I specifically watched, right? And it would immediately be like, I hear a word that I really need. I receive it. And immediately when the broadcast is over, the devil attacks. Anybody ever been through that, right? Where you receive a right on time word, and then literally right after you receive it, something happens. You go to church and you get that feel good word that gives you hope. And then when you leave church, boom, the devil starts coming. It is his job to do that. It's his job to do that. And so in so many words, what God is saying is it gets to a point where you have to recognize the enemy for who he is, which is a liar. I'm going to say that again. What he's saying is there comes a point in everything that you go through and all of the enemy's little antics, it comes a point where you really got to start seeing him for who he is, which is a liar. Nothing that he tells you is the truth. Those thoughts that tell you you're not qualified, those thoughts that tell you God ain't going to do it. You got to see it for what it is. And honestly, faith is saying, God, no matter what the enemy shows me, I'm still going to believe you. Because when you really think about it, whenever the enemy does attack, right? He attacks us by things that we see, what we hear, and even the things that we speak, which are influenced by what we see and what we hear. Which is why it's important that when you're going through in any season of life, to really sit close to God, to really be intentional about placing your focus on God, which is why it's so important to watch what you expose yourself to. So move forward today. I'll say it again. Move forward today. It's a brand new day. Yesterday may have been hellacious for you. Monday may have been, a stressful day. Last month may have been that month that really just almost took you out. But today, what God is saying is it's a brand new day. So move forward. It even got to a point this morning, which is why I'm so late going here, because I really had to just soak in the Lord's presence this morning. And as I was spending time with him, I just told him, I said, Lord, today is a brand new day. I understand what the enemy did yesterday to try and get me down. It low-key worked the majority of the day because I wasn't as productive as I wanted to be. But I said, but Lord, today, I don't care what happens. I'm not letting the devil do to me what he did yesterday. Come on. I'm moving forward. I don't care about what he did in May. I don't care about what he did in January, February, March, April. I was very intentional about telling God those things. Because a lot of times when you're going through, the enemy brings up the past. He brings up the painful things you've had to endure. He brings up the frustrating moment. He brings it up. Yes, he does. He brings it up. So what I'm saying is, you got to start doing the same thing. Number one, you got to choose to stop believing it. Stop entertaining the lies of the devil. The things that you see, that you know are the complete opposite of what God spoke. The things that you hear, which you know are the exact opposite of what God spoke. You got to start ignoring it. Start being unfazed by it. But two, you also have to be intentional about saying, God, even though the enemy has guided me a few times, I'm not going to let it happen anymore. I'm not going to let myself be swayed. I'm not going to let myself get into a place of depression, anxiety. I'm not going to even let myself get into a place where I'm questioning your faithfulness and not seeing the things that you've already done for me. And when you can do that, I promise you will see a shift in your day. Even if you're still waiting on God to do some things, your day will have more peace than it did when you weren't intentional. You will have more joy. You will be able to feel a little bit more hope the more and more you do it. You'll be able to have a little more faith each and every single time you're intentional about that. And this is also why the Bible tells us, keep your guard up, because the devil is like a roaring lion seeking whom he can devour. That is a real thing. And I think a lot of times we forget that. We forget that we have an adversary that's waiting on us to let our guard down. We forget it. We don't even think about it. We just expose ourselves to his antics. But not today, says God. Not today. Not today. Choose today to move forward. I don't know why God wants me to tell you this, Miss Allen, but you got more money coming to you. You have more money coming to you. That's what I hear. Every time God has had me tell you that it happens, it's more money coming to you. So that's the broadcast. Don't let the devil take you back. Don't let him pull you back into an old season. Don't let him pull you back into the same mindset you had back then. Don't let him pull you back into those same coping mechanisms, those same survival tactics. Don't let him take you back. But today, be intentional and move forward. Embrace today for what it is. Embrace it and let God handle the rest. So that is the broadcast, y'all. That is it. To those of you guys that feel led to sow, you can sow on whatever platform you feel led to, whether it's PayPal, whether it is, the CashApp, the links are there. And so that is it. If you need prayer for anything, have a testimony, that email address is there. To those of you guys that are interested in booking a session, you guys can. The seed title today, for those of you guys that are sowing, excuse me, my allergies, you guys. The seed title is Move Forward. That is the seed title. The seed number that I hear is 7. 717 is what I hear. 717. 7, it means completion. 1 plus 7 equals 8. Today is a brand new day. And that is what that seed represents. The fact that today is a brand new day. So we're going to be intentional about approaching it the right way. So that is it, man. I love y'all. I'm rooting for you. And so until next time, y'all, peace.